That night, under the chandelier's light, my mother cut me out of her will like I was cutting off a diseased limb, and I smiled, because I knew something she didn't. Let me take you back 6 hours. Seattle, December 24th. The Thompson family mansion sat on Queen Anne Hill like a crown made of glass and marble. 3 stories of old money and older grudges. I stood in front of the mirror in my childhood bedroom, smoothing down my emerald dress. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From freedom. My husband Lucas leaned against the doorframe, watching me with those warm brown eyes that first caught me at Pike Place Market 2 years ago. He was wearing the only suit he owned. A navy blue number we bought off the rack at Nordstrom Rack for $149. My mother would hate it. She hated everything about him. You ready for this? Lucas asked. I turned to him. I've been ready my whole life. The thing about growing up in a family like mine is you learn early that love has terms and conditions. My mother, Eleanor Thompson, didn't hug. She appraised. She didn't ask how you were doing. She assessed whether you were worthy. And me? Ava Thompson, 28 years old, MIT graduate, senior software engineer at a tech firm downtown pulling in 6 figures? I was never worthy enough. Because I didn't marry a venture capitalist. I didn't join the country club. I didn't play the game. I married a chef who makes the best pastrami sandwich in Seattle from a 70-seat diner on Capitol Hill. We walked down the curved staircase together, Lucas's calloused hand in mine, hands that smelled like rosemary and sourdough, hands that built something real. The foyer was exactly as I remembered, 20-foot ceilings, a Steinway grand piano in the corner playing itself through some classical piece I never learned the name of, crystal chandeliers throwing light like diamonds across marble floors. 50 people mingled in designer clothes. My mother's real estate empire on full display. Lawyers, investors, people whose last names appeared on buildings downtown. And there was Eleanor, my mother, 56 years old and sharp as broken glass in a Chanel suit that cost more than Lucas's monthly rent. Her blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked like a facelift. Diamond earrings catching the light like warning signals. She saw me. Her eyes swept over Lucas. Her smile never reached her eyes. Ava, you came. She said it like I'd done something surprising. Like showing up to my own family's Christmas party was an act of rebellion. Maybe it was. My younger brother Liam appeared beside her. 25, Yale Law. Already working at mother's firm. He looked at me the way you look at someone who used to matter. Big sis, he said, raising his champagne glass. Still slumming it? Lucas's hand tightened around mine. I squeezed back. A silent message. I got this. Still being a disappointment, Liam. It's what I do best. My father Henry stood near the fireplace. 62 years old and somehow smaller every time I saw him. He caught my eye for half a second, then looked away. That's what 25 years of marriage to Eleanor Thompson does. It erases you. Dinner was served in the dining room. A table that sat 20, prime rib, lobster tail, wine that cost more per bottle than Lucas paid his line cooks per day. I barely touched my food. My stomach was doing backflips. Because tonight wasn't just another family dinner. Tonight was the night I drew my line in the sand. Dessert came. Creme brulee. I watched my mother crack the sugar with her spoon. That satisfying snap. She always loved that sound. Breaking things. The piano music drifted in from the foyer. Silent night. How ironic. I stood up. The table went quiet. I have an announcement. Eleanor set down her spoon. Her eyes narrowed. In our family, announcements were dangerous. They meant someone was about to disrupt the carefully constructed image. Lucas stood beside me. His hand found the small of my back. Steady. Real. Mom. Dad. Liam. I looked at each of them. I'm pregnant. The silence that followed was the kind that has weight. The kind that presses down on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Eleanor's hand moved to her wineglass. Her knuckles went white. I heard the crystal crack before I saw it. A hairline fracture running up the stem. Congratulations, she said. Her voice could have frozen Lake Washington. You've officially ended your place in this family. Liam's smirk widened. My father looked at his plate. Eleanor stood. She was 5'6", but somehow she always seemed taller. She walked around the table. Her heels clicked against the hardwood like a countdown. You married beneath us, Ava. We tolerated it. We smiled for the photos. We pretended your little rebellion was a phase. She stopped 3 feet from me. But this? Carrying his child? You're carrying a mistake. Something inside me should have broken. That's what she wanted, what she'd always wanted. To watch me crumble. But I'd stopped being her daughter the day I chose my own life. You're out of the will, Eleanor continued. Don't expect a cent. Maybe your chef husband can cook your future. The room erupted in polite laughter, the kind that comes from people who've perfected the art of cruelty disguised as humor. I reached into my purse, pulled out a small silver box, 4 inches by 4 inches, wrapped with a simple white ribbon. I placed it on the table in front of her. Good thing I've always had an appetite for freedom, I said. My voice was steady, calm. Merry Christmas, Mom. I left you a little something. Open it when you're sober enough to understand. Eleanor stared at the box like it was a coiled snake. I took Lucas's hand. We walked toward the door. Behind us, I heard someone say, "What's in the box?" I smiled. They had no idea. That night, light snow fell on the streets of Capitol Hill, soft, silent, like the world was holding its breath. Lucas drove us home in his 15-year-old Honda. The heat barely worked. I watched the Christmas lights blur past the window. Red, green, gold. All those colors that were supposed to mean joy. I felt nothing, and everything, all at once. Our apartment was on the 3rd floor of a walk-up on Pine Street, 750 square feet, creaky hardwood. A kitchen smaller than my mother's closet, but it was ours. Lucas unlocked the door. I stood in the hallway. My legs wouldn't move. "Ava?" His voice was soft, worried. Then it hit me. The weight of what just happened. The weight of 28 years of never being enough. The weight of carrying a child my own mother called a mistake. My knees gave out. Lucas caught me before I hit the floor. He wrapped his coat around my shoulders, pulled me close. I could smell the kitchen on him. Garlic, butter, home. "We'll be fine, Ava," he whispered. "We build our own family." I sat there in the yellow light of our tiny living room, my hand on my stomach, laughing, shaking, maybe crying. I couldn't tell anymore. All my life, I'd done everything right. Straight A's at Roosevelt High School, full ride to MIT, Dean's List every semester, senior software engineer by 26, 6-figure salary, stock options, the American dream in a neat little package. But none of it mattered, because I didn't choose the path Eleanor Thompson had paved for me. I didn't marry the hedge fund manager she'd picked out. I didn't join the country club. I didn't play the game. And now I was free, terrifyingly, beautifully free. Lucas made me tea, chamomile. He sat beside me on our thrift store couch and didn't say a word. He knew I needed silence. Real silence. Not the crushing kind my family specialized in. I fell asleep in his arms, and for the first time in months, I didn't dream about that house on Queen Anne Hill. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:30. I almost didn't answer, but I saw the name. Dad. Henry Thompson. 62 years old and still terrified of his own wife. "Ava." His voice was quiet, defeated. "Your mother is furious. She didn't sleep last night. She's talking about lawyers, about the family reputation." I poured myself coffee, decaf now, for the baby. "What do you want me to do about that, Dad?" "Maybe just apologize, for the sake of peace. You know how she gets." I laughed, actually laughed. The sound surprised even me. "Peace?" I said. "Peace isn't silence, Dad. It's freedom, and I'm finally free." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but my heart was steady. Lucas looked at me from the kitchen. "You okay?" "Yeah." I nodded. "I really am." Meanwhile, across town, Eleanor Thompson was doing what she did best, performing. Thompson Estates, her luxury real estate empire, 23 years of building a brand based on one simple principle, perfection, or at least the appearance of it. She had a photo shoot that morning for Seattle Magazine, Power Women of the Pacific Northwest. She smiled for the camera in her corner office on the 40th floor of Columbia Center. Behind her, the city sprawled out like a kingdom. "Tell us about your family," the journalist asked. Eleanor's smile never wavered. "My family is my foundation. My daughter works in tech. My son is following in my footsteps. We're very close." Lies wrapped in cashmere and confidence. But I knew better. Perfect was just a veneer. And underneath, rot. 6 days passed. 6 days of Eleanor ignoring the silver box sitting on her desk at home. She'd brought it back from the party, set it beside her jewelry box, tried to forget about it. But it sat there like a question she was afraid to answer. December 31st, New Year's Eve. Eleanor poured herself a glass of Chateau Margaux, $200 a bottle. She deserved it after the week she'd had. She looked at the box. 4 inches by 4 inches, simple white ribbon. Her hands trembled as she untied it. Inside was a USB drive, black, plain, and underneath, a handwritten letter on cream cardstock. She recognized my handwriting immediately. The careful cursive I'd learned in 3rd grade. Before I learned that careful wasn't enough. If you ever loved me as your daughter, you'll want to see what you've become. Eleanor's throat went dry. She walked to her home office, inserted the drive into her laptop, waited. The screen filled with files, PDFs, spreadsheets, bank statements. Her eyes scanned the first document, then the second. Her breathing got faster. There, in black and white. Transfers from Thompson Estates operating account to a personal account. Liam's personal account. $140,000 over 18 months. Her hands flew to her mouth. The gambling debts. The late-night calls from Liam crying about bookies in Vegas. The promises he'd made to stop. She'd covered for him, protected him, used company money like it was her own personal checkbook. And I'd found it. Every transaction, every lie, every crime. Eleanor scrolled down. Another file. This one titled, Margaret Thompson Final Will. Her mother, my grandmother, dead for 3 years now. Eleanor clicked it open. The document loaded. Official letterhead from Goldman and Associates, Seattle's oldest estate law firm. She read the words once, then again, then a 3rd time because her brain refused to process them. To my granddaughter, Ava Marie Thompson, I leave the sum of $2,700,000, held in trust, to be released on her 28th birthday. The date glowed on the screen. Released, November 15th, 2 months ago. Eleanor's makeup began to crack, foundation settling into the fine lines around her eyes, the mask slipping. I had the money. I'd had it for 2 months. While she was cutting me out of her will, I was already a millionaire. The daughter she'd called worthless. The daughter who married beneath her station. The daughter carrying a mistake. That daughter didn't need her anymore. Had never needed her. Eleanor stared at her reflection in the dark computer screen, and for the first time in her perfectly curated life, she had no idea what to do next. Outside, fireworks began, Seattle welcoming the new year. But in that office, in that moment, Eleanor Thompson's world was ending. From code to kitchen. While Eleanor Thompson's world was crumbling, mine was just beginning, and I built it with flour, butter, and $2,700,000 my grandmother left me. The daughter who actually loved me. January brought rain to Seattle, the kind that doesn't stop, just keeps coming, relentless, beautiful. Lucas and I sat at our kitchen table with blueprints spread out like dreams. His diner, Bennett's table, 70 seats, cramped kitchen, a lease that expired in 6 months. What if we expanded? I said. Lucas looked up from his coffee. With what money, Ava? I smiled, pulled out my phone, showed him the bank statement. His eyes went wide. Your grandmother? She knew, I said. She always knew who I really was. We bought the space next door, knocked down the wall, added 50 more seats, built a kitchen that could actually handle Lucas's vision. Industrial ovens, a proper prep station. Space for the magic to happen. But we didn't change what mattered. The mismatched chairs, the chalkboard menu, the way Lucas greeted every customer like they were family. I handled everything else. The online ordering system, the social media, the branding. Turns out a decade of coding translates pretty well to building a business. We reopened in March. Bigger, better, still ours. The line wrapped around the block on opening day. People came for the food. They stayed for the story. The software engineer and the chef. The girl who walked away from millions to marry for love. Except now I had the millions anyway. And that made the story even better. One afternoon in April, a customer asked about the menu. A college kid with bright eyes and student debt written all over him. Why's your grilled cheese called the disinherited? I was wiping down tables. Lucas was in the kitchen. I stopped, smiled. Because it's made without silver spoons, I said. Just heart and butter. The kid laughed, pulled out his phone. Can I quote you on that? Sure, I shrugged. It's the truth. By that evening, the quote was all over social media. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. People loved it. the authenticity, the defiance. The middle finger to old money wrapped in melted cheddar and sourdough bread. We sold out by 6 p.m. Had to turn people away. Lucas kissed me in the kitchen while the dishes piled up and the orders kept coming. We did it, he whispered. We're doing it, I corrected. Because this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. While our little diner was blowing up online, Eleanor's empire was imploding. Thompson Estates lost the Belltown Tower contract. $20 million. The biggest deal of the year. The client pulled out with no explanation. Just a terse email and radio silence. Then the Harbor Steps project fell through. Then the Magnolia development. One by one, her clients vanished like smoke. The Seattle Times started asking questions. Business section. Front page. Thompson Estates under fire. Allegations of financial misconduct. Someone had leaked the documents. The transfers to Liam's account. The missing money. The careful lies. I wasn't that someone. But I wasn't surprised when it happened. In May, Seattle Magazine called me. They wanted to do a profile. Local success stories. I almost said no. But Lucas convinced me. Your story matters, Eva. Let people hear it. The article ran in June. From code to kitchen. How a software engineer built a food empire with soul. They took photos of us in the diner. Lucas in his apron. Me at the register. Real. Honest. Everything my mother's life wasn't. The article mentioned my family once. Thompson comes from Seattle real estate royalty but chose a different path. That one line said everything. The phone call came on a Tuesday. Middle of lunch rush. I almost didn't answer. But I saw the name. Liam. My little brother. The golden child. The one who could do no wrong. His voice was hoarse, broken. Ava. Mom's losing everything. The auditors found the missing funds. The board is calling for her resignation. Her lawyers are talking bankruptcy. I stepped into the back office. Closed the door. The noise from the dining room faded. I know, I said simply. You know? His voice cracked. This is our family, Ava. Our mother. Our mother, I repeated slowly, cut me out of her life because I married a good man. She called my unborn child a mistake. She spent 28 years making me feel worthless. Silence on the other end. The kind that means he knows I'm right. The auditors, I continued, my voice steady, found what she buried, the truth she tried to hide. That's not on me, Liam. That's on her. But you could stop this. You have the evidence. You could tell them it's a misunderstanding. You could save her. I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised me. She found the truth long ago, I said. She just forgot who she stole from. She stole from her own company, her own son, her own daughter's future. And now she pays. I heard him crying. My little brother, 25 years old and finally understanding that actions have consequences. I'm sorry, he whispered. For everything. For laughing that night. For never standing up for you. For being a coward. I know you are, Liam. But sorry doesn't fix this. Only the truth does. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But my heart was steady. Lucas appeared in the doorway. He'd heard everything. His eyes were both proud and worried. That look he gets when he knows I'm fighting battles he can't fight for me. You could destroy her completely, he said quietly. One interview. One statement to the press. You could end her. I walked to him. Put my hand on his chest. Felt his heartbeat. Real. Solid. Mine. She destroyed my childhood, I said. She destroyed my confidence. She tried to destroy my marriage. But you know what she couldn't destroy? The truth. I looked up at him. I'm not destroying her, Lucas. She did that herself. I'm just refusing to lie for her anymore. He pulled me close. Outside, the diner hummed with life, laughter, conversation, the sound of people actually living instead of performing. This was my empire now, built on honesty, love, grilled cheese made without silver spoons, and it was worth more than anything Eleanor Thompson ever owned. The fall. The news broke on a Thursday morning. 7 a.m. Seattle was still waking up, coffee brewing, commuters heading to work, the sky that perfect shade of Pacific Northwest gray. Then every phone in the city started buzzing at once. Eleanor Thompson accused of embezzlement. Seattle real estate mogul faces criminal investigation. Seattle Times. Front page. Above the fold. The headline that ends careers. I was at the diner when I saw it. Lucas was prepping for breakfast service. Cracking eggs. the smell of bacon filling the air. Normal, peaceful. My phone lit up. 37 notifications in 2 minutes, then 50, then I stopped counting. The article had everything: bank statements, transfer records, dates and amounts. $140,000 moved from Thompson Estates to Liam Thompson's personal account over 18 months. But the real bombshell was at the end, the part that made my stomach drop even though I knew it was coming. Sources close to the investigation say evidence was provided by an anonymous whistleblower with intimate knowledge of the family's financial dealings. Anonymous, but everyone would know. Everyone would guess. Lucas read the article over my shoulder. His hand found mine, squeezed. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I nodded. "I really am." By noon, it was everywhere. King 5 News, Q13 Fox, every local station running the story on repeat. Seattle's real estate queen faces fraud allegations. Investors started pulling out by 2 p.m. 3 major deals canceled. Stock in Thompson Estates dropped 38% in 4 hours. Free fall. The phones at her office rang non-stop, clients demanding answers, board members calling emergency meetings, lawyers circling like sharks. Eleanor's world was burning, and I was 2 miles away making grilled cheese sandwiches. The press conference was scheduled for 4 p.m. Eleanor insisted on it, against her lawyer's advice, against common sense. She stood in the lobby of Thompson Estates, 40th floor of Columbia Center. Floor-to-ceiling windows behind her showing the city she'd conquered. Or thought she had. She wore Armani, cream-colored. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, the armor she always wore when going to war. 20 reporters packed the room, cameras, microphones. The vultures had arrived. "These allegations," Eleanor began, her voice steady but her hands gripping the podium too tight, "are completely fabricated. My company has always operated with the highest ethical standards." A reporter from the Times stood up. "Mrs. Thompson, can you explain the transfers to your son's account?" Eleanor's smile never wavered, but I could see it in her eyes. On every screen, every live stream, the cracks forming. Those were legitimate business expenses. "My son works for the company. He handles various projects. This is a coordinated attack on my family's reputation." Another reporter, "Is it true your daughter provided the evidence to investigators?" The room went silent. Every camera focused on Eleanor's face, waiting for the mask to slip. "My daughter," Eleanor said slowly, her voice trembling now, "is misguided. She married poorly, made questionable life choices. This is her attempt at revenge because I refused to enable her mistakes." I watched from the diner, the live stream playing on my phone. Lucas stood beside me. The lunch rush had ended. We were alone in the kitchen. Eleanor kept talking, kept lying, kept building the house of cards higher. Then my phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Post it now." I looked at Lucas. He nodded. He knew what I had to do. I opened my laptop, logged into an anonymous account I'd created weeks ago, uploaded the file I'd been holding. The one piece of evidence I hadn't given the investigators. The video from Thompson Estates' internal security system. December 2023. Eleanor's office. Late at night. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Eleanor sat at her desk. Liam stood beside her, both of them clearly visible. Eleanor signed the transfer authorization, her signature, her hand, no question who it was. Liam's voice was clear on the audio. "Mom, I swear this is the last time. I'll pay it back." Eleanor's response, "You're my son. Family protects family, even when they screw up." The video was 2 minutes and 33 seconds long. I uploaded it to YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, every platform that mattered. Within 10 minutes, it had 50,000 views. Within an hour, 500,000. By evening, it was everywhere. The press conference ended abruptly. Eleanor's lawyer physically pulled her from the podium. The questions became shouts. The cameras followed her to the elevator. On every screen, the video played on repeat. Eleanor Thompson signing away her career, her reputation, her empire. There was nothing left to deny. No spin to manufacture. No lie big enough to cover the truth. By 8 p.m., the board of Thompson Estates announced her immediate resignation. By 9 p.m., 3 criminal investigations were launched. Federal, state, local. The dominoes fell fast. Investors filed lawsuits. Partners severed ties. The company's credit lines were frozen. 23 years of building an empire, gone in less than 12 hours. I closed the diner early that night. Lucas and I sat in the empty dining room, the streetlights casting shadows through the windows, Seattle going about its business outside. He turned on the kitchen light, the warm glow filling the space, our space, built on honesty, love, flour and butter. "Does revenge feel good?" Lucas asked quietly. I looked at him, this man who'd stood by me through everything, who'd held me when I broke, who'd believed in me when my own mother couldn't. "No," I said, looking toward the frosted window, watching the city lights blur, "but justice does." And it did. Not the triumphant kind you see in movies, not the fist-pumping victory. Just the quiet certainty that the truth had finally won, that lies catch up to you, that the mask always falls eventually. Eleanor Thompson had spent her whole life building an image, perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect businesswoman. But perfection is just another word for lie, and lies don't last. I put my hand on my stomach. 5 months now. Our baby growing. A child who would never know the weight of impossible expectations. Who would never be told their worth depended on their bank account. Lucas kissed my forehead. "Let's go home." We locked up, walked to the car through the rain. The kind of Seattle rain that feels like the city is washing itself clean. Tomorrow, the story would continue. More headlines, more investigations, more consequences. But tonight we were just two people who'd chosen love over legacy, truth over tradition. And in the end, that was the only revenge worth having. Where comfort meets courage. 1 year later, Seattle in full bloom. Spring had arrived with cherry blossoms and new beginnings. Bennett's Table wasn't just a diner anymore. It was a movement. We had 5 locations now: Seattle, Tacoma, Spokane, Bellingham, Olympia. Each one a little different, each one unmistakably ours. The tagline appeared on every menu, every website, every social media post. Where comfort meets courage. People came for the food, they stayed for the feeling. That maybe you didn't need a trust fund to build something beautiful. That maybe choosing love over legacy was the bravest thing you could do. The awards came next. Best New Restaurant Chain, Top Employers in Washington, Seattle Magazine's People to Watch. But the thing I was most proud of? It wasn't the success. It wasn't the money. It wasn't proving my mother wrong. It was the Margaret Initiative, a STEM scholarship fund for young women from families who told them they weren't good enough, who said their dreams were too big, who tried to put them in boxes made of expectations and old money. We launched it in September. Full-ride scholarships, mentorship programs, internships, at top tech companies, everything my grandmother would have wanted. The first recipient was a girl from Renton. Brilliant, broke. Her family wanted her to marry rich. She wanted to study aerospace engineering. When I handed her the check, she cried. So did I. My grandmother's money was finally doing what it was meant to do, setting people free. The morning Liam showed up, I almost didn't let him in. It was a Tuesday, 7 a.m. We weren't open yet. I was doing inventory in the back. He knocked on the glass door, stood there in jeans and a wrinkled shirt. No designer suit, no arrogance, just my little brother looking lost. Lucas looked at me. "Your call." I unlocked the door. Liam sat at the counter. I made him coffee, black, the way he used to drink it before Mom convinced him expensive lattes were more sophisticated. "The French toast is good," I said, sliding a menu across to him. "Ava." His voice cracked. "I need to say something." I waited. Poured myself coffee. Decaf, still nursing. "I was Mom's puppet," he said, staring at his hands. "Everything she wanted, I did. Every opinion she had, I repeated. I never thought for myself, never stood up, never questioned." He looked up at me. His eyes were red. He'd been crying before he came. "I'm sorry, Ava, for that night, for laughing, for every time I chose her approval over doing what was right. I'm so sorry." I set down my coffee cup. The sound echoed in the empty diner. "Then stop apologizing," I said quietly, "and start living differently." His face crumpled. But I wasn't finished. "Sorry is just a word, Liam. It's what you do next that matters. It's whether you become the person you were pretending to be or the person you actually are." He nodded, wiped his eyes. "I got a job. Marketing firm downtown. Entry level. I'm starting over." "Good," I said, and I meant it. We ate breakfast together. Didn't talk about Mom. Didn't talk about the past. Just two people trying to figure out how to be siblings without the weight of Eleanor Thompson crushing us. When he left, he hugged me. Quick, awkward, real. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me yet, I said. Just keep showing up. My father came the next week. Wednesday afternoon. Lunch rush just ending. Henry Thompson, 63 now, thinner, grayer. The divorce had aged him 10 years and 12 months. He sat in a booth by the window. Ordered soup. Didn't touch it. Your mother and I are done, he said when I sat down across from him. Papers were finalized last month. I'm living in a condo in Fremont. Starting therapy. Good, I said simply. I know I failed you, Ava. His voice shook. I stood by and watched her tear you down. I never defended you. I was a coward. I poured him coffee, set it in front of him, steam rising between us. You were, I agreed. You still are. But at least now you're an honest coward. He flinched. But he didn't argue. I want to be in your life, he said. In Noah's life. I want to be the father I should have been. The grandfather I want to be. I looked at this man, my father, who'd given me half my DNA and none of his courage. Dad, I said softly, I've forgiven you, but forgiveness doesn't mean return. His face fell, but he nodded. He understood. Maybe someday, I continued. When you've proven you can stand on your own. When you've shown me you're more than Eleanor's shadow. Maybe then. He left his soup untouched, paid his bill, walked out into the Seattle afternoon. I watched him go, felt nothing, and that was okay. That evening, I was closing up. Lucas had Noah in the back office, 6 months old, all smiles and chubby cheeks. He had Lucas's eyes and my stubborn chin. I was wiping down tables when I saw her, through the front window, standing in the rain. Eleanor Thompson. She looked different, smaller somehow. Her hair was gray at the roots, no more expensive highlights. Her coat was last season's, her shoes were scuffed. Thompson Estates had declared bankruptcy in November. The mansion on Queen Anne Hill was gone, sold to pay creditors. She was living in a studio apartment in West Seattle, working as a receptionist at a dental office. The fall from grace had been spectacular, complete. She stood there in the rain, just stood there, looking through the glass at the life I'd built, the diner that was everything she'd mocked, the success that came from heart instead of heritage. Our eyes met. For just a second, I saw everything in her face: regret, rage, jealousy, loss. I could have opened the door, could have invited her in, could have offered forgiveness. Instead, I turned away, walked to the back office where Lucas was holding Noah, our son, giggling at his father's silly faces. Lucas looked up. Everything okay? Yeah. I took Noah from him, held him close, breathed in that baby smell, powder and possibility. Everything's perfect. Through the window, I could see Eleanor still standing in the rain, but I didn't look back. The kitchen light reflected on my face, warm, peaceful, free. I kissed Noah's forehead. He grabbed my finger with his tiny hand, held on tight. Lucas wrapped his arms around both of us. This little family we'd built, this beautiful, imperfect, real life. I whispered the words, half to Noah, half to myself, half to the universe. They raised me to marry wealth. I chose to build it instead. And in that moment, surrounded by the smell of bread and coffee and love, I knew I'd won. Not because Eleanor had lost everything, but because I'd found everything that mattered. Home wasn't a mansion on Queen Anne Hill. It was a diner on Capitol Hill with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu. Family wasn't blood and last names and inheritance. It was Lucas's calloused hands and Noah's laugh and choosing each other every single day. Success wasn't a corner office and a 7-figure salary. It was making sandwiches that made people smile, scholarships that changed lives, building something real. Outside, the rain kept falling. Eleanor eventually walked away, disappeared into the Seattle night. I never saw her again, and I was okay with that.